Now, when I first watched this, I had no idea it was directed by the same person who did High Fantasy, Jenna Bass. Jenna's works that I've seen are diverse. Diversity is important in storytelling, but there's a deeper concern in film than diversity, and that's representation. We need to be more aware of the persistence of stereotypes affecting black girls and women, and avoiding repeating those mistakes when making writing, casting, and other content production decisions. Beauty Cuba, Natalie, and Poppy's actions were driven by the need for survival. In a way, these women were failed by the men in their lives. What are men's roles in society? To protect and provide. Said provision is not limited to finances. Men provide discipline, structure, stability, security, leadership. Men are there to ease and handle pressure because pressure is made for shoulders and not for hips. The women in Flatland were deprived of these things, and that led to chaotic circumstances. The reason I'm bringing this up is because of how their journeys ended. Beauty had to save her man, losing all her money, damaging her reputation, and shattering lifelong friendships in the process. Let me repeat, umoshe impilo yakhe for a man. And whoever wrote that scene of Beauty losing her wig is foul. Let's talk about that wig scene for a bit. Black women experience higher social anxiety about their hair than women of other races or ethnicities and feel intense social pressure to conform to the standard of beauty. And before you argue with me, please look at the history of Miss SA as an example. Look at the unambiguous black woman's hair. Those women were considered the best in Mandela's Rainbow Nation, and up until recently, all of the Miss SAs that we've had did not have natural hair. When they snatched her wig, what dizzy or beauty, she was dizzy for a minute. What happened to her was traumatizing and is traumatizing to a lot of us. It's an act used to humiliate us, shame us, scold us for assimilation, for our want to protect our natural hair, or just to practice our prerogative. And then there's Poppy. Poppy was saved by her men. Let me put it like this. Poppy was rescued by the men in her community. One more time for the people in the back. Poppy was rescued by the men in her community. Heavily pregnant, drinking, foul-mouthed, utwara watupoho, white girl. Somehow, in all of this, she's maintained her perceived innocence. I don't believe the father-son duo rescued her with the intentions of handing her over to the police. Bakisa Papa mentioned earlier that his home is missing a woman's touch. So I believe they took her for their own ulterior motives. And honestly, I don't care about that. She'll be more than fine. Okay, Kengogu, let's talk about Natalie. She had to save herself. Natalie saved herself at the expense of the black woman. Okay, it's not that simple, but Natalie did drive off into the sunset in Beauty's car with a bag stuffed with Beauty's money. Natalie was a child bride who suffered something traumatic that led to her accidentally committing a crime. And honestly, if you think about it, where do you go when the person who's supposed to protect you is the one that endangers you, harms you, traumatizes you? There are higher rates of physical and sexual violence against women in this country than anywhere else in the world. Women who experience violence with their intimate or non-intimate partners were likely to be depressed, have alcohol-related problems, contract HIV or any other sexually transmitted disease, unwanted pregnancies, abortion, and led disorganized lives. What Natalie experienced is constitutionally recognized as a crime. It was horrific, and her initial reaction to run and find refuge was justifiable. What she did after that was a knee-jerk reaction. I'm just now realizing that it is possible for someone watching this not to know what I'm talking about, so let me give you a quick synopsis of FLATLAND. Die Karoo is 'n platland, jy kan jou voorkoms sien inkom. We meet Bakkies and Natalie on their wedding day. Natalie looks nervous. Bakkies clearly in love, but she's scared, almost unsure of herself. Soon after what is supposed to be a joyous occasion, Bakkies sexually assaults his new bride. She runs away, looking for refuge, and accidentally kills the same pastor that married her to Bakkies. Bakkies, dazed but very much aware of his actions and those of his wives, blames his wife's murder on Billy, Beauty's man, who was just released on parole. The second-hand embarrassment I was experiencing when Beauty and Bakkies were talking about the crime Natalie committed was astronomical. Then, somewhere between officially meeting Beauty and Bakkies' father, Natalie introduces us to Poppy, a Afrikaner meisie indulging in her vices while heavily pregnant. She doesn't know who the father is, a true wild child. They decide to flee to Joburg, but what's going to happen to Omi? Beauty, knowing something's not right, goes on a mission to free her man who was wrongfully accused. Let's call her Superwoman from now on. The sisters hitchhike with truckers. Then Natalie started kissing her sister's man more affectionately than her own husband, which led to her first consensual sexual experience. When street smart Poppy realized what happened between them, she auditioned for the Bad Girls Club. Then Beauty found them quick fast. The men the girls were with were predators. The switch from nice guy to who they really were was instant. Then, as Beauty's doing her job, one of them snatches her wig. She lost all focus. After she captured the girls, she says, "There aren't any real men in this country." And you know what? She's right. Things go south when Beauty and the girls are discovered, but we do get an implied happy ending. Poppy will live with the boys, Beauty got her man, and Natalie drove off into the sunset. While doing some light reading on FLATLAND, many of the articles I read kept echoing the notion that this was the director's Western.
Boom towns. A new life. And the promised land.
When I read this a third time, I decided to stop dismissing it. Now, if you're like me, you're a bit stubborn and you need multiple confirmations before you believe in something. So to make this short, let's go over the elements of a Western and do a comparison to FLATLAND. The following list is from filmsite.org. One of the most important things in a Western is location, location, location. Geographical setting is romantic, with sweeping landscapes or rugged rural terrain, breathtaking settings, and open landscapes. Other settings include lonely and isolated houses or the small town main streets. Almost always, the cowboy or cowgirl has a favorite horse. Westerns are normally rooted in archetypal conflict: good versus bad, virtue versus evil, white hat versus black hat, villains versus heroes, lawman versus gunslinger, social law and order versus anarchy. Typical westerns include hostile elements like guns and gunfights, violence and shootouts. Western heroes are often local lawmen or enforcement officers, army officers, cowboys, territorial marshals, or a skilled, fast-draw gunfighter. The Western hero could usually stand alone and face danger on his or her own against forces of lawlessness, normally masculine persons of integrity and principle, courageous, moral, tough, solid, and self-sufficient mavericks. After going over this list, I had to relent. Flatland is a western with multiple themes in misogyny, intersectionality, race and class privilege, racism, and sexual violence. This girl adventure western is still available on DSTV box office. Go watch it. If you're new here, my name is Uvoni. Please like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you for making it to the end of the video. Follow me on my social medias. They will be linked in the description bar. Bye-bye.